Where there's thunder, there's lightning. John Nada. About a month back, an ex-girlfriend from long ago got back in touch with me. I don't have Facebook or the like, so she held on to my number all of these years. Suffice it to say, the guy she was with cheated on her right before they were going to get married, and this is why I was hearing from her when I had not heard from her in 3 years. The reason? Simple enough. She's about to hit 30 and her biological clock is now ticking. She went so far as to ask me if I wanted to have kids, as if to size me up for future usefulness. She bought into the lie that many other women have bought into, the lie of I can have it all. She wants to start her own business while simultaneously speaking of wanting kids and a family. She doesn't want to be a stay-at-home mom, but doesn't think she will find a man willing to fulfill that role, while at the same time she says she wants an ambitious guy. These two things, of course, being mutually exclusive. Throughout the conversation, I felt nothing. I did not entertain that now would be my chance. I did not feel sorrow for her lost time and bad choices. If anything, I felt vindicated. Vindicated for the 100th time. MGTOW was right again. It was all as predictable as B and C coming after A, and 2 and 3 after 1. Here's another example of truth on display. I needed some papers signed in another department at my workplace. I don't work directly with this office, but it is predominantly female. I had a male coworker with me as there have been problems in the past of accusations against other people, and I did not want this befalling me. At some point, talk of the virus comes up and it gets mentioned of missing all that work time and the financial hardship that it would incur. One of the females pipes up that she chooses to work and didn't have to. I don't say a word. I get my paper signed and go on. But the whole time I'm thinking that this is an unremarkable woman with no degree or specialized training who works a job a therapist could do. The truth is she was right. As long as she could lay on her back and position her legs at a 45-degree angle, society would take care of her. She's right. She doesn't have to work, because she has a husband to do that. Should the husband ever decide to leave, he is on the hook for 2 kids. So she is taken care of no matter what, and thus occupies a position that could otherwise be filled by a qualified man. I think more men know the truth. They just want to pretend things are different, or at least different for them. Many are afraid of being alone, and I think fundamentally the feeling most men have and have had throughout their whole entire life is this. All most men ever wanted was to feel like someone was there for them. At a certain point, all you can do is concern yourself with who you are and where you are going. These things bring enough trouble of their own. But once you know you are free, this is worth its weight in gold. I have not had a real serious interest in dating for a while. It is a kabuki theater of sorts. You've got to wine and dine. You have to carry the conversation. You have to make all the plans and show all the interest. Even if it all comes easy for you and women throw themselves at you, what's the use? Sex, when it is all said and done, is really a rather cheap commodity, or at least not worth the price of freedom. Most guys have run the numbers and figured that it just isn't worth it. If prostitution were legal worldwide tomorrow, you would see the price of sex plummet even further. It would make marriage and dating tantamount to buying an amusement park, so you don't have to wait in line for the rides. The thing is that most guys will wife almost anything up. As long as the woman still has some vestige of attractiveness, many guys will look past the obvious pitfalls. Due to this, women rarely lose value in a divorce. In fact, it only becomes more lucrative for them. A lot of guys are taking solace in the things that they do have. A piece of ass will never be more valuable than peace of mind. Yes, you'll miss out on a lot of BS. And so, much like what we see in nature, there was a move a while back to preserve the deer population and to hunt down a lot of the natural predators that were befalling deer. And as a result, there was an explosion of deer across the cities, the countryside, and the counties. And so now we had a deer overpopulation issue. Car wrecks going up and all kinds of different issues resulting from that ecological imbalance. And that's what you see in online dating, isn't it? You've got guys that are settling for twos when they're a six. You've got guys shooting pretty low just to get a piece, just to get a piece of the pie. And so now these twos think that they're a seven. And now these women of little value think that their value is much more because a high value guy was willing to sleep with them. Not understanding, of course, that just because a guy is willing to sleep with you does not mean that he's willing to have a relationship with you or put the kind of energy into commitment that most women seek. And moving on to another recent event in my life, I didn't actually get tested for the COVID-19 virus, so I don't know that I ever actually had it. But I would say probably sometime last month, I had started kind of feeling ill in the sense of just almost kind of like a sinus infection. And so I went to clean some mold off of part of the interior of the house that had gathered with some white vinegar. And I noticed that I couldn't smell the white vinegar. And I then began to do some tests and noticed that I couldn't smell much of anything. And for 3 days, I couldn't smell until about the morning of the fourth day, my sense of smell did return to me. So that's why I kind of think that maybe I had the virus, other than, like I said, it was kind of like a mild to less than mild sinus infection. The most notable thing, of course, being the loss of smell. You say, why do you bring that up? Because for 3 days, I thought about, man, I really hope my smell returns. I really hope that I'm able to smell things again and have that sense back. I mean, you get 5 senses, and to lose any one of them can be devastating. And it really made me realize and appreciate something as simple as being able to smell the air after a spring rain, or even just a really good food dish or something like that. There's a song by a man named Ahmed Buktir, which is entitled I'm not exactly sure what the title of it is, but the lyrics of it are "Forgive Me When I Whine," and the song basically talks about how this person encounters various different people throughout their walks of life. And so he encounters someone who is blind. He encounters someone who has difficulty walking because of a deformity, and encounters a deaf person. And he goes through all these different things about how he wished he looked like this, or he wished that he could do that, or he wished that he had this. And then he would encounter these people and see how happy they were despite the disability that they were dealing with, which made him realize how lucky he really was to have what he had. And so in the song, he says, God, forgive me because I have eyes to see, ears to hear, and 2 legs to walk, and the world is mine. Something as simple as being able to hear and see and to walk and to be in good health is something that we take for granted, particularly in the West, where it's just sort of expected. And so I've always enjoyed that song, and that's what that made me think of, was that song, because right now we're in trying times for various different reasons. And I've had some personal things come up this year, but I also know a lot of people that have had some personal things come up this year. And I wouldn't say I don't know. I mean, I've had some rough times over the years, and I can at least say that out of this year, there have been some good things that have occurred. I was able to get the house. I was able to get the dog. I was able to see my family a lot more this year than I have been in the past year or two. But along with that, of course, comes the issues, and I don't just mean because of all the stuff with the virus and the lockdowns and everything else, people losing their jobs and their livelihoods and all that sort of thing. There have been some people that have really suffered this year, and so I'm glad that the year is almost over. This will be the last video for this year. I don't plan on doing any new videos until next year. Things are about to get, they've been busy for me, but things are about to get even busier. I'm transitioning to another department within my company. So I'll have to learn. Some of the stuff is similar, but there's a lot of new things to learn and a lot of new people to become acquainted with, and so on and so forth. But some of the things that people have been dealing with, I can't blame people for wanting this year to just be over with. And so, I had some friends that they just lost their father a couple months back. He had struggled with cancer for a while, and then I lost my grandfather back in October, after he had struggled for I think the last year or two, or maybe even 3 years of his life with dementia and Alzheimer's. And so that's, anybody that's ever had a relative deal with that or struggle with that, that's pretty hard to deal with in and of itself. And I'm just glad that he's at peace now. He's at rest, and I know he's not having to deal with those struggles anymore. But by and large, this year has been difficult for many of us. And going back into the whole dating thing, so a while back I had talked to a girl and wasn't really expecting anything to come of it. This has been some time ago, and it was right around the holiday times when this occurred. And it was really weird because she was really forward in giving me her number, and then really forward and wanting to hear from me. And so we began talking, and right out of the gate, one of the first things that she told me about was that her son was going to have some work done, with an oral hygienist, and it was going to cost about $800. Now, this girl's single mother, divorced, 2 kids. And she had recently, I guess, been laid off, or I don't know how recently it was, but it was sometime before I had talked to her, and was starting a new job. And it almost sounded like the new job was one of those multi-level marketing pyramid scheme type jobs. Well, immediately I just picked up on the fact that, the holidays were around the corner, and this lady basically was, I guess, looking for, because she was concerned about how she was going to provide a good Christmas for her kids. And meanwhile, she had told me about the ex-husband, and of course made him out to sound like the worst person in the world. And I don't know if he really was or he wasn't. But apparently he wasn't paying the amount of child support she thought he should be, or this, that, or the other. And of course was abusive, and all this sort of stuff. And it's really interesting because you can't unsee this stuff anymore. You can't, once you have the knowledge that you have, and I've known about MGTOW probably since 2008. And of course it wasn't as well, it's not even mainstream now, but I mean, it's a lot more, there's a lot more resources. It's a lot more, I mean, you type MGTOW into YouTube back in 2008, and maybe 4 or 5 different channels will pop up, and you type MGTOW in now, and there's probably 1,000 some channels. Saying all that to say this, that it's really, it really does influence your life to a big degree, and I mean in a positive way, because it keeps you from making these stupid mistakes that you might have made in the past, or it keeps you from being used by somebody that has every intent to use you. And especially in these times that we have right now, where everything just seems so dire and so miserable, and everybody's just waiting for the year to roll over to the next so we can get on with life. It's especially a great tool, and I think in many ways prepared me and others for the isolation, because many of us have been isolated for years, just not in the sense that it was a societal thing, but in the sense that many of us have kept to ourselves and have watched the goings on around us. And so, that being said, I look forward to what comes next year, and I hope next year is a better year for myself and for you guys and for the others out there that have had a rough go of things. And I'm confident that next year, it just seemed like things were just kind of put on hold until we could get into 2021. So I'm hoping we can hit the ground running and start moving in the directions that we were going before everything kind of halted for us. But that being said, I hope everybody has a safe end of the year and continue progressing with your personal goals, and continue progressing in your knowledge and wisdom of the world around you. Go your own way or don't. The choice is yours.